Audible to you?
Hello?
Yes, Virginia. Am I audible to you?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
Is my voice clear to you?
Yeah, yeah. It's clear.
Okay.
So, so I assume like this is the first class. Okay. So today,
Okay.
like how to interact with SQL Server and how to interact with the SSI. I mean like MSBI components and all. Okay. So
Mhm.
once you install, SQL Server in your machine. Okay. Install SQL Server. Okay. So once you install SQL Server in your machine, you will get SQL Server database, SSIS, SSAS, and SSRS. So at the time of installation, you need to select all these components. Okay. So by default, uh, it will be selected some components, but you need to check whether all these three things, all these four things has been selected or not. If not, you need to check them manually. Okay, so that is what the first thing that you need to keep in your mind at the time of installation. And once after installation, you need to check for the one more component which will support all these MSBI components. It's nothing but SQL Server data tools. Okay, so without this, you can't access MSBI components, so-called SSIS, ES and RS. So SSDT, simply we call this one as SSDT, SQL Server Data Tools. So which will support all these above components. Okay, so under .NET platform. So once after your installation, if you come down, if you see here, this is what the SSDT, SQL Server Data Tools. The symbol you are able to see, right? So this is called SQL Server Data Tools. Earlier we have a SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio. In earlier versions, we call this one as SQL Server. Okay, bits. Simply we call this one as bits. BIDs, Business Intelligence Development Studio. Okay, so this is around like in 2008 version, till 2008 version, or as 2008 R2. That means release 2. Okay, so in later sessions, that means like in 2010, sorry, 2010 or else 2012 and 2014. Now also like 2016 is also coming. Okay, so but most of the companies or most of the projects are using either 2012 or 2014, and still many of the projects we are using 2008 art. Okay, so all these latest versions, all these later versions, we are this business intelligence, this bits has been replaced with SSDT. Now this is what the I mean like what we call interaction platform to interact with the SS. I mean like all these MSBI components. So once after installation, you can see this SSDT, or else you can go to the start thing, and there you can see all the components. SQL Server Data Tools. Once after installation, SQL Server Data Tools will come. Okay. See, so this we used to install manually. Bits we used to install manually. Okay, in earlier versions. Now SSDT will come automatically with the SQL Server what we call software itself. Okay, so no need to bother about this thing. But better to check whether in evaluation version you are getting this part or not. If not, you need to manually Google it and then download it. Okay, download and then install in your machine SSDT. So So before starting with, we will start, these sessions with SSIS, SQL Server Integration Services. Later we will go to SSAS. Finally, we will talk about SSRS. Okay. So before going to this SSIS, okay, let us see the SQL Server database, how it looks like and how to interact with SQL Server database. Okay. So in the taskbar you can see this symbol, right? SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so this is what the component we use to interact with SQL Server database. SQL Server Management Studio. Simply we call this one as SSMS. Okay, so SSMS is the component which will interact with, which we use to interact with SQL Server database. Okay, so click on this, or else if the first time installation you can see this icon here in the installed programs list, SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so now I'm clicking on this SQL Server Management Studio, which is 2012 version. Okay, so it will show you one dialog box. There you can see what is the server you are going to connect and what is the server type you are going to connect and which authentication you want to connect. Okay, you want to use. See here, so see here you are having a different server types, SQL server types. One is database engine, analysis services, reporting, and integration services. Since we have all these three components, okay, for each and every component, it will have that's own server. Okay, let us say for integration services, we have a SQL Server integration services server, and for database engine we have separate and analysis and reporting also. Now you are going to interact with the database, right? So that's why we are selecting database engine, or else by default it will show you the database engine and the server name which you want to connect. Since you have installed a SQL Server in your local machine, right? So by default it will give you the server name. Okay, server name in the sense like your own machine name. Okay, and authentication. Here you can see two authentications. One is Windows authentication and second one is SQL Server authentication. Okay, Windows authentication in the sense like the logins which you use to connect with your machine. Okay, so at the time of starting your machine, generally we used to give our own logins, right? User ID and password. The same login you want to use, or else SQL Server authentication. How you get the SQL Server authentication? SQL Server authentication means like at the time of installing the SQL Server in your machine, it will ask you whether you want to have separate logins for SQL Server authentication, or else you want to proceed with the Windows authentication. Okay, that is up to you. If you want to have SQL Server authentication separately, then at the time of installation you can specify the username and password for SQL Server. Okay, so with that username and password, if you want to interact, then you can use those login and password, or else straight away you can go for the Windows authentication. Okay, so in real time you will get all these machine details like database engine. This is what the server name, right? So I think you know, right? Like in real time we will have a three different environments. Okay, so one is dev environment, testing environment, and finally you will go to production environment. Okay, so for each environment they will maintain some separate servers. Okay, so whenever you want to interact with the database engine and it belongs to test environment, they will give you the test server name. Okay, or else production server, or else dev server, whatever the server they want to interact. Okay, so they will give you the all the server name and to which authentication you are supposed to I mean like login. So those details also they will provide. So for now I am just login using with my Windows authentication to my local server, local machine. Click on connect. Once you connect, if the machine is in running, then it will show you a green color mark over here. Okay, so that means if the SQL server is in running mode, or else generally we will have stop, or else what we can say, running or stop modes, right? So if the server stopped, then it will show some red color mark, or else if the server is running, it will show a green color mark. So nothing to worry about this. Come down here, there you can see many folders. Okay, so these folders will automatically created by the software itself. Okay, and this is what the folder that we need to work frequently. Come to the databases, there you can see many things over here, some folders and some database symbols. Okay, so let us say I have created one database called as training database. Under this, if you click on this, there also you can see many folders. Okay, there tables, views, okay, some synonyms, programmability, storage, security, blah 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 things. Okay, so as an MS-based developer, we used to interact with either IS, EAS, or else RS. So in that case, the majority of the things will be the tables. Okay, fact tables, dimension tables, or else some base tables. Okay, some stage tables, whatever the type of thing it will be, we used to interact with one database object, that is nothing but the table. Okay, frequently we used to interact with the tables. So generally at the time of loading, okay, we are talking about database loading. Okay, so generally there is two types of loading. One is full load and the second one is delta load. You need to remember these two names. One is full load and the second one is delta load. Full load or history load. History load. Okay, delta load or incremental load. Okay, so what is meant by full load generally? Let us say I'm implementing this MSBA for a particular company or else for a particular project for the first time. Okay, let's say I'm having 10 years of my data. Okay, for the first time I'm implementing this MSBA for this project. Okay, since I need to get all the 10 years data into the MSBA component, I mean into data warehouse using MSBA, what I need to do is I need to get all the records. Okay, the 10 years of records I need to get, so which is nothing but the full load. Full load is nothing but whatever the data, we are having in the source system, that entire data we are pulling into data warehouse. Okay, so that is nothing but the full load. Delta load, what is delta load? Let us say first time I'm implementing, right? So in that case I'm getting all the data into my data warehouse. After that, every week I am executing, every week I want to get the data from source system, the latest data. Okay, so this is June, right? So till May. Okay, so whatever the data I have started this project and started pulling the data from source system. Okay, till end of the May I have pulled the data into my data warehouse. Now my data warehouse is having the data till this year May. And now what is the rest of data for this 15 days? That means June data. Okay, so only some part of data I am pulling into my data warehouse now. Okay, so out of 10 years data. Okay, what kind of data I am pulling? I am just pulling the latest data, and which is nothing but the 10 days or else 15 days data. Okay, so which is nothing but the incremental data. Okay, which is nothing but the incremental data. So this will delta load will be will happens generally using some date constraint. Okay, using some date constraint we will pull the data. If you want to load the data every week, okay, last week I have loaded, last Sunday I have loaded, that means till last Sunday my data warehouse is having the data till last Sunday. Then what about this for this week? So I want to run ETL again and then get the data from source system only for this week. Again next week I will load the data, next week I will execute this particular ETL for 1 week. Okay, so it's based on the customer requirement. Sometimes customer will ask you, hey, pull the data I mean day by day, or else pull the data daily, or else pull the data monthly once, or else pull the data weekly once. So something like customer will give you the inputs as per his requirement. So based on that we will execute that particular ETLs. Okay, ETL is nothing but SSIS components. So at the time of executing these SSIS components, while pulling the data in the select query, okay, generally we will mention some where class. In that where class, we will restrict the data for a particular period. So that is nothing but the incremental load. Okay, so to load all this data into data warehouse, we used to interact with the tables generally, or else the views in some cases. So that is what the
Excuse me. Here I have one question. Like in that one, like in the delta loading, like delta loading, does it contain like the history data, everything? And if we want to increment, if you want to add any incremental data, then we'll use delta load, right?
yes, it won't contain any
Okay, so it
historical
will
data.
have like, oh, it doesn't contain any historical data, only
Yeah.
like incremental data.
Yes. So specifically we will write a query. Let us say select some list of columns. Okay. List of columns from table where we will specify some condition. Let us say some last modified date will be some greater than some date. Okay. Let us say um, 02/06 2017 and last modified date is less than so 16. So in that case it will pick only some it will based on some period, right? So only for particular period it will pull the data. When we are talking about history, we will just remove this condition. That means select a list of columns from a table. That means it will pull the entire data. Okay, so whatever the data in the source system, whatever the data in the particular table in our source system, so it will pull the entire data. If you specify this condition, so this will act as a incremental data. Okay, so it's based on the customer requirement. If customer ask us to load daily, then till yesterday, okay, so we will pull I mean we will execute the ETL and we will pull the data till yesterday. And tomorrow what we will do? Tomorrow again we will do, I mean we will pull the data whatever data we are having for today, that will come in tomorrow. So likewise, if it is a monthly condition, then previous month we will pull. So that is nothing but the incremental load. In incremental, we will specify, definitely we will specify some date condition. Without date condition, if you don't have any where class, in that where class, if you don't have any kind of what we call a date condition or else any specific condition, then it will call as a history. Let us say if you remove this, select star from particular table. Okay, some table is existed in our source system and I am trying to pull the data. Since there is no where class, this called as a history load. Okay, so in some cases client asks us to do history load every time. Remember that he will specifically he will ask you to load history data. That means whatever the data in his source system, that entire data we may need to pull every time. It's based on customer requirement. Okay, so just keep in mind, like doing an incremental load or else doing an full load, it's not our choice, it's completely customer choice. Customer side people, customer side technical people, they will ask you to load the data in a particular manner. It might be a incremental or else it might be a historical history. If they specifically ask you to load history, then no need to specify any date condition. If they specifically ask you to do incremental, then you should have some condition. It might be increment, it might be date condition, or else it might be depending on some row numbers or else row IDs. Okay, so even that particular condition also they will tell you, hey, pull the data based on this particular column. Okay, so in that case you need to specify that particular column in where class and give the condition. Okay, so this is what the in data warehousing terminology, this is these four terms you need to keep in mind. What is full load, or else what is history load, what is delta load, or else what is incremental load. Okay, so to interact with the database, we use SQL Server Management Studio. Under this you will have, you can see different databases. Since this is a SQL Server, you can see this is a SQL Server environment. Okay, to connect with the SQL Server environment, to see the SQL Server database tables and all, we will connect SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so or else if you are if your source system, or else if your I mean like system is like Oracle, then they will use some other interaction tool like Oracle developer, or else Toad. Okay, or else SQL tools. Okay, or else WinSQL. Okay, or else many platforms they used to interact with, like Oracle or some other databases or else source systems. Okay, so assume like we are having our source tables all are in SQL Server, then we can interact with SQL Server Management Studio. Under this you can see all these databases. Under database folder you can see all these databases. Okay, so in real time they will give you the all the database names, whatever the databases you can connect, you are supposed to connect, and whatever the databases you are not supposed to connect. Okay, and for each and every database, what are the different objects that you can interact. And in even in tables also, in even in every database objects also, what that particular table contains. Okay, what type of data that particular table contains. In some cases, like you may I mean like you may not understand what that particular table contains. It is having some data. Even if you once after writing a select query, you are able to see some data, but you don't understand what that particular table is containing. Okay, so in that case, like at the time of giving, I mean at the time of getting KT from the project people, you need to ask all these questions. Okay, what are the relation between tables when they are talking about tables or else tables data. Okay, so you need to ask the question like what is the relation between those tables. Then only they will give you, yes, if you are having 10 to 15 tables, or else 20-30 tables, or else many tables you may have in real time. So at that time they will tell you these are all the related tables, these are all related to a particular subject area. Okay, or else these are all the dimension tables, or else these are all the fact tables. So something like that, they will give you some inputs. Okay, so in real time, as I told you earlier, we will have two types of tables in data warehouse. One is dimension and another one is fact table. Okay, so when you are interacting with the database, or else when you are working with SSIS, you may need to create these tables. Okay, from client side they will give you the requirement, hey, create a fact table with this name. Okay, or else for a particular subject area, in some cases they won't suggest any name, but you need to give some name to that particular table based on the subject area. Okay, and that table should have all these columns. Okay, so in that case you may get one doubt, what I mean, like, how to give the name to a table. Is there any naming convention that we need to follow? Or else how to name the columns? Is there any naming convention that we need to follow? Yes, definitely we need to follow some naming conventions. Okay, even those naming conventions also they will tell you. In some cases if they won't tell, I mean if they are not telling any kind of naming conventions, just check already existing tables. Okay, if it is a altogether fresh project, then you can follow your own naming conventions based on your experience. Let us say for dimension tables. Okay, uh, you can give the name like, in some cases they will follow a prefix like dim. Okay, let us say I'm talking about product dimension, right? So dim product. Okay, in some projects they will give the prefix like d underscore, d underscore product. Okay, in some cases product underscore dim, or else product underscore d. That means by looking at the table name itself we can say like this is the dimension table. Okay, so it's not mandatory to follow a specific naming convention for all the projects. It's based on our customer requirement, or else our architect, whatever the database architect will tell you, the based on that you will follow the naming conventions. Okay, so for generally for a dimension table we will follow the naming conventions like this. Okay, if it is a product dimension, then dim underscore product, or else d underscore product, or else product underscore dim, or else product underscore d. Likewise, if it is a fact table, then fct underscore some subject area. It might be sales. Okay, fct underscore sales, or else f underscore sales. Similar manner, sales underscore fct, or else sales underscore f. Likewise we will follow. But before loading the data into dimensions and facts, we are getting the data from source, and from source we will split the data into dims and facts, right? So before loading the data into dims and facts, in between we will use some stage tables. Okay, some stage tables. So stage tables, what is the stage tables? These these stage tables we use, these are temporary tables or else intermediate tables. On these tables, okay, so on these tables we will apply all the business logics, okay, and get data ready on these tables. Once we are ready with the data in this particular stage tables, we will move the data from stage to actual table, either it might be fact or dimension. Okay, so but by loading the data from source to data warehouse, we will maintain stage tables. Wherever the data warehousing projects you are working, okay, that must have that, definitely that will have some stage tables. How to name the stage tables? Even for stage tables also, they will follow some naming conventions. It might be with st underscore some product, okay, or else stg underscore some product. Okay, similarly product underscore st, or else product underscore stg. Okay, let us say if you have started, like if you are working for a project and that project is a altogether fresh project, and you are also like you are starting your career with that project. Okay, so in that case, if they ask you to create some stage tables and dimensions and facts, then keep in mind, like as of now you don't have any work experience on this, but you are telling that you are having some experience. So in that case, if they ask you to build some stage tables or else some dimension tables and fact tables, so keep any of these naming conventions in your mind first. Okay, so they are asking about stage tables, then start creating st underscore or else any naming convention, but just stick to one naming convention. Okay, dimension tables, dim underscore some subject area, or else fact tables fct underscore some subject area, or else f underscore some subject area. But don't be confused at the time of table creation. Okay, so this is how we used to name the tables. And inside of the tables, generally we will have columns, right? How to names to the columns? This is also, I mean, for this also we don't have, some standard naming conventions and all. It is purely depends on the projects and the requirement. So generally, what type of data we will have generally. So let us say we are talking about some sales, or else for better example, we will take some employee table. Okay, so employee table will contain some EMP table will contain some employee ID. Okay, and employee name and employee salary. Okay, and employee join date. Okay, employee address, or else employee phone number. Okay, or else employee what we can say, email. Okay, so something like that we will have some columns. So if you observe here, employee id will be generally, it will be numerics, let us say 1001, or else something like this. Okay, some 1326, something like this. So this data type is nothing but integer data type. Okay, and employee name will be some Ravi, or else some Naresh. Okay, or else some John, something like that. So this is nothing but the character data. Okay, so to have some character data, we follow varchar. Okay, varchar of, we will specify some size. Generally employee name won't have more than 20 or 25 characters, right? So approximately we can give some 30. And employee salary, so this one also some 20,000 or else 30,000, something like that. So this is also in integer format. Coming to joining date, so it is like 0 to 06 some 2006, something like that. So to handle these dates and all, we have date data type. And for address also, it will contain some character data. To handle character data, we have varchar data type, varchar of some size. Since it's address, I'll give some more characters, 40 characters. Employee phone number also, it will contain some integer, numeric values, right? So integer. Employee email, since it is a character type data, it is varchar, varchar of some size, around 20 characters or else 30 characters. Okay, so these are the different kind of data types that we generally face. So let us say if it is an integer column, okay, then what we will give is, we generally we follow like int and employee id. To name the employee id column, we will follow like int employee id. Since it is a varchar, the second column, since it's a varchar vc employee name. Okay, vc employee name. So don't confuse, just keep in mind how to name the column names. Okay, so whenever if you want, I mean like you may need to create some tables or else you may need to some column names. Okay, so straight away if you keep all these things in your mind, then simply you can create all these things. Employee salary, since it is a salary point and it's a integer, we can say it as int sal or else int employee sal. So likewise we will follow some naming conventions. It's a date, right? So for date we can name it as date. What is this? Employee join date. Date employee join. So likewise we will follow some naming conventions for columns as well. Okay, it is mandatory, definitely it's mandatory to follow some naming conventions for all data warehouse tables. Okay, in source system whatever the column name it may be, even if they may follow some naming conventions or not in source systems, but when you are using data warehouse and as a BI developer, okay, you should follow some naming conventions for stage, facts, dimensions, and inside of them some columns also. Okay, so that is the best practice. So when you are creating all these objects or else when you are creating all these things, by looking at the names itself, then they will tell you like whether you are experienced or not. Okay, so this might be some deciding factor in some cases. So this is what the general flow or else this is what the general naming conventions we will follow in real time. Okay, so if you look at the tables and all, these are all the some sample tables that I have created. Okay, so by looking at the table name itself in real time, not here, but in real time by looking at the table name itself, I mean like it will tell you like this table contains this kind of data. Okay, so if you want to write any query, okay, you are able to see all these tables, and if you want to write any query, you can see new query over here. Click on new query. Then this is what the editor, I mean like workspace that you will write any queries for your database tables. Okay, so let us say I'm closing this again and opening this new query. Once you open the window, automatically here one box is opening, right? So this will tell you like which database you are in now. Okay, so let us say you are trying to write a query, and if you place the cursor over here, it will show some something like a message, you are in this particular server. And let us say, yeah, here also you can see you are connected to this particular server, and in that particular server this is what the database name and all. Okay, so let us say in real time you have three environments: development, testing, and production environment. For all these three environments, let us suppose for all these three environments you are having access. Okay, and for all those three environments you have connected parallelly over here. Okay, one connection for data, I mean like one connection for dev, and one more connection for test, and one more connection for production. All these connection, three servers are you have connected over here, and one window has been opened here, and you are trying to drop some table which is existed in all those three environments, or else you are trying to delete some data from dev environment. Okay, and that particular table is existed in three environments: dev, test, and production. Okay, so before deleting the data, or else before updating, or else before dropping anything, that means before doing any kind of database activities, okay, except select, you can select I mean like if you do select, nothing will happen. But if you try to update or delete something, it will affect on some database, right? So before doing such a kind of operations, you need to keep in mind, or else you need to check whether in which database you have connected, I mean like to which server you have connected and to which server, to which database you are in now. Okay, so once you have the confirmation on these two things, then do the operations. Okay, so if you do some delete operation blindly, you thought of doing that in dev environment, but unfortunately you have done it in production environment, then end of the day it's a big issue. Okay, so that's why you need to keep in mind to which server you have connected and to which database you are in now. Okay, you can check over here at the down. If you see the cursor at the down, you can check over there, or else come to top there. You can see if you place the cursor, then there also it will show you the database and server name to which you have connected. Okay, so or else if you come over here also you can see the which database you have connected. Okay, so reporting server some training, reporting server some training. Okay, so just confirm the database and server name before doing any kind of database operations. That is the pretty much important thing in real time. Okay, so generally you won't have access for the production environment. Okay, so that will be restricted to some people only, but unfortunately you may have I mean like you may have some access to production. Then in that case you should keep all these things in mind. Okay, you can do any kind of, you can play with the dev environment or else you can play with the test environment, but you should not play with production environment. So that is the crucial point. So in this particular window you can write the query. Okay, so whatever the query you want, it might be select or else anything. You can do any kind of SQL operations. Let us say if I want to uh, select, I will change the table database name, training database. I am connecting to training database and writing the query, right, select from particular table. Okay, let us say I'm selecting this table, order destination, select star from, sorry, select star from, select star from particular table. Okay, to get the result, once you write the query, to get the result you can execute. Okay, you can click on this execute or else F5 from your keyboard. Even if you place the cursor on execute, it is showing like F5. Okay, you can place the, you can press F5 key, then it will show you some it will show you the result of that particular table. Okay, so like as you can see, so that is how you can interact with the database and database objects like tables and all. Okay, so for each database objects you will have separate folder, tables, views also. For views also, if you have created any view, for that, for all these views will come under this views folder. Programmability, coming to programmability, so keep in mind like in this particular database. Okay, so whatever the database you are trying to interact, the most of the things that you will interact is, one is tables, second thing is views, and the third thing is programmability. Under this programmability, whatever the, if you have any stored procedures created, okay, that stored procedure will come under stored procedure folder. If you create any functions, that function will come under functions folder. Okay, so these are the four things that you will frequently interacting with the database: tables, views, stored procs, and functions. Okay, if you create anything, so this is how you need to, I mean you will interact with the database. And coming to SSIS, we are talking about loading the data using SSIS. So where we will connect to the SSIS, go to start. Okay, you can go for the SQL Server data tools. For the first time, if you are working with the SQL Server data tools, then you need to go like this. or else if you have interacted many times, then straight away you can see the icon over here, SQL Server Data Tools. Click on the SQL Server Data Tools. See, it is showing Visual Studio 2010. Okay, so which was developed based on using .NET platform. Okay, so once you click on the SQL Server Data Tools, so it will open one window for Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio. Okay, see here, go to File, click on File, and then click on New. Okay, go to Project. Okay, we are going to create one project. Okay, just click on the project. One window will open like this. Okay, so see here, .NET framework. That means this entire environment has been developed by .NET framework. Okay, so the left side pan you can see the business intelligence components, in analysis services, integration services, reporting services. Okay, so for now I'm going to interact with integration services. That means like SSIS, SQL Server Integration Services. Click on the SQL, click on the integration services. Once you click on the integration services, it will show you two options: integration services project, or else integration services project import wizard. Time being, just forget about this wizard. Let's talk about integration services project. Okay, so since this is the first time, what I'm trying to do, go to file. For the first time I'm going to new. Okay, that means my intention is I want to create new project. Okay, so new, and then select the project. In that, go to integration services. In the integration services, select the integration services project. That means I'm going to create one integration services project. So when we are trying to create something, we should give some name and we should save that in some location. Okay, so where you want to save, or else what is the name you want to give, that and all you can see over here, a name, location, and solution name. Okay, so for time being, just remember name and solution name. I will tell you the difference between the name and solution name. Okay, so name, what is the name you want to give for your SSIS project? um, some um, let us say sample underscore June. Okay, so sample underscore June is my project name, integration services project name. Okay, project, and solution name I am giving like sample underscore June underscore solution, SOL. Okay, so and in which location you want to save this project? Okay, so I'm going to save this project in E drive, or else if you want to have, if you want to save this project in a particular location, then you can go for the browse and you can specify anything, whatever the location you want to select, you can select. Okay, for now like I'm saving my project in E drive. Okay, so click on OK. Name and solution name, just remember these two things. This name will give the name for your SSIS project. This name will give the name for solution. What is the solution, I will tell you. Click on OK. Once click on OK, see some window is opening, and some options you can see, some pans, some different location it is showing. See, solution name what I have given, sample June underscore solution, right? So in this particular solution, I have created one project, one SSIS project, and its name is sample underscore June underscore project. Okay, so don't confuse. So generally the hierarchy will be solution. We will have solution. Under this solution, we will have projects. Okay, under these projects we will have packages. Okay, so one solution will contain many projects. Okay, project 1. Okay, similarly project 2. Likewise, one solution may contain many projects. Okay, and one project will contain many packages. Package 1, package 2, something like that. We will have, we can have many things, many packages. Okay, don't confuse with this thing. Just remember, solution will contain many projects, project 1, project 2, project 3, something like that. And for one project we will have many packages. Okay, just remember this thing. Once you start working on this MSBI, you will come to know solutions, projects, the hierarchy. Okay, so it's not a big deal. Go here. This is what the environment that you will interact with SSIS component, or else you will load the data from, I mean, like you will create something over here to get data from source to destination. Okay, so to load the data from source to data warehouse. Okay, so data will flow from source to data warehouse. So in between, SSIS is the layer. Okay, that means SSIS is the layer. SSIS will interact with the source and SSIS will interact with the data warehouse. Okay, that means since it is a layer, okay, since it's a bridge, so which will connect two ends. Okay, that means it needs to pick the data from source and it needs to push the data into data warehouse. Okay, so to interact with source to SSIS, we need one source connection. That means like SSIS is trying to pull the data from source, right? So without connection, how can it will pull? So that's why we will, we will create one connection, one source connection. And to load the data into data warehouse, okay, we will create one connection for the target. Okay, so connection is nothing but, let us say, I'm talking about source connection. Let's assume it is s underscore con, and this is target underscore con. S con s underscore connection will contain source database details. Okay, source database in the sense, what is server name? Okay, under this server, what is the database name? Okay, or else if you have any authentication details. That means like to which user you will connect. Again, target connection. That means you are trying to load the data into some target. Then you should have some target database details. Without target database details, to where you will load, it's not possible. Which is a meaningless. So that's why you will create one target connection. That connection will contain some some details about the target. So what are the details? Here also, into which server you want to interact and into which database you want to load the data. Okay, so these two connections we will establish here, and we will load the data into data warehouse tables. That means here SSIS will act as a intermediate layer from source to destination. Okay, to pick the data from source and to load the data into data warehouse, we will use SSIS. Okay, so here you can see many things, some tools, different tools, like some different components we will have in SSIS. Okay, to load the data. So, and like if you want to pass any what we can say, uh, let us say earlier we are talking about incremental load. Okay, incremental load. In incremental load, we are trying to load the data for a particular period. Okay, let us say for every 2 days I want to load the data. Then in that case, for every 2 days I need to modify the query, right? For 2 days, let us say June 2nd to June 4. Okay, again I need to open the query. Again I need to change from June 4 to June 6. Again I need to change the query from June 6 to June 8. Likewise, every time I need to change the query, but which is a pretty much difficult, okay, in real time. So in that case, what we will do is we will just automate the query, okay, by passing some variables. So that variable will contain these dates. So they will pick the date automatically, and they will give that value to the query, and then they will pick the data using that query. So how to pass the parameters, how to write the parameters, okay. Or else you are trying to load the data from source to destination, okay. How will you come to know whether that load is successfully happened, or else if failures occurs, I mean like if any failure, how will you come to know? So that and all you can see in this particular window, okay. So like we will see more details about for I mean like each and every component, okay. Going forward, we are having many options in this in SSIS environment, okay. Control flow, data flow, what is control flow, what is data flow, how to configure parameters, how to get the data dynamically, okay. And what are the different loads, using notepad how to load the data, or else using Excel sheet how to load the data, or else using database, okay. If the source is database, then how to load the data, okay. So if you want to do any kind of uh, if you want to apply any kind of business logic, or else if you want to change the state of the data, okay. So how to do, okay, how to apply business logics, okay. So all these we will discuss in coming sessions, okay. So like that's it for today, and